Matt Tait, Kansas beat writer, KUSports.com, joins us here on Big Board Sports. They've got Purdue tonight in the Sweet 16, the road to the Final Four. And good morning, Matt. Roger Weiland, ESPN Radio in Albany. How are you?
I'm doing great, Roger. How are you?
I'm good, Matt. They can't lose tonight, Matt. I got to win the national title, so please, no loss to Purdue tonight. All right?
Well, you got them in a good spot. I mean, Kansas City, a home court advantage like nobody else probably has ever had in this tournament. So they're ready. I'll tell you that much. I'm sure Purdue is too, but Kansas seems very ready to me. I mean, this is a team that you know, they've been building toward this, and as you know, I mean, the idea every year is Final Four or bust. And if they fall short of that, it's not a good year. In fact, Self says, you know, you can have a good year and go 30-5 and not make the Final Four. But in order to have a great year, you've got to get there. And so this team with so many veterans and upperclassmen and guys who are getting their last crack at this thing, they're very, very locked in. You know, they would be fine if they were playing this one in Alaska today. But the advantage of playing in Kansas City is just something that they are really, really excited about. And I think it should serve them very well.
Matt, do you feel like this Kansas team has the best backcourt in the country?
I do. I don't even think it's close. I think, you know, so much of the talk about this specific game is about Purdue's big men, and understandably so. I mean, Caleb Swanigan's a monster. You know, KU doesn't have that guy, and they haven't really seen that guy all year. So it will be a challenge for them. And then they've got the 7'2" kid who Coach Self's been referring to as Ivan Drago from the Rocky IV movies all week, you know, in a lovable way. I mean, he recruited him out of high school a little bit. So, you know, he knows the kid, and he's just been having some fun there. So it's a big front line, and it's definitely going to pose some challenges for Kansas. But you know, that's what everybody's talking about. And I don't think anybody else, at least, you know, on the surface levels, is talking too much about what an advantage it is for these Kansas guards to go against Purdue. And that's not a knock on Purdue's guards. They've got good guards. They've got depth there. They've got kids that can shoot the ball. You know, 6 of them, I think, over 40%. I mean, that's pretty good from three-point range. But the athletic ability, the speed, the pace, the tenacity, these guys, Mason, Graham, and Jackson, are just so good individually, and then they're so good together. I just think that Kansas's advantage at the guard position is a bigger advantage than Purdue's advantage at the forward position, and a lot of that will come down to how the game's called, and if foul trouble enters the picture, then maybe that changes things. But that changes things anyway. You know, that would change any game. So I think the guards are a huge part of this game and a huge factor, and big for Kansas for sure.
Matt Tait of KUSports.com with us here on Big Board Sports, and you can check out Matt on Twitter at MCTait, Tait. Matt, Chris Honorato here in with Roger. Does Jackson, you talked a little bit about Josh Jackson, does he have the ability, has he already played himself into like being one of 3 guys maybe for the top overall pick come June?
Yeah, I think he's been a top 3 guy for a while now. But I think if you guys saw him play against Michigan State last Sunday and really the game before that, and just how he's closed this season, and obviously he's got a maximum of 4 games left, he's got the look of a guy right now that's playing himself into the number 1 spot. He's delivering in every possible way. I mean, he's on the glass, he's knocking down jumpers, he's hitting mid-range stuff off the glass. He's finishing in transition. He's attacking the rim. He's making his free throws, which was an issue for him most of the season. You know, those things are all coming together, and he's just showing that he's got the complete game. But what he's showing now in the last week or two that we didn't really see throughout the season is just a little bit of cockiness. And it's not a negative thing. It's sort of that cockiness that you want to have, that any coach or any teammate would take from their guy. Because he's walking around on the floor knowing nobody can stop me. Nobody, you know, I can do whatever I want out here. You give me the jumper, I'll knock it down in your face. You play off of me, I'm going to go right by you. I mean, you play up on me, and I'm going to go right by you. So he's got that flair to him now that you sort of see from, you know, those star power type of guys. He when he exited the game against Michigan State, he had just buried the Spartans with just athleticism and this monster dunk, and then he subbed out of the game, and the game was over. And you know, in Tulsa, they had a huge KU support fan base there too. So as he was walking off the floor, he kind of just raised his arms, and just had this head nod looking into the crowd like, yep, I'm the man. I love you guys. You love me. This is fun. And so I think that next level is what gives people the idea that this guy could absolutely take over the rest of this tournament. And if he does, I mean, we've seen it before. We've seen guys get hot and play themselves into the lottery. We've seen guys get hot and play themselves into a first-round pick. I think it's definitely possible that if Josh stays this hot and they go and make a run, I think he could absolutely factor into that top spot.
Hey, let me ask you about Coach Self. What's it like following his program, dealing with him? Dealt with him a little bit, when he played at Kansas several years ago, and obviously that facility is unbelievable, and the loudness of that. But in terms of Bill Self, what kind of coach, what kind of guy are we talking about here?
He's the best dude there is. I mean, he's just so charismatic. He's great to work with. I enjoy it every day. I mean, doesn't mean he's always in a good mood. Doesn't mean he always likes what I do or what I write. But he's a good guy. He's fair, and he understands every aspect of this job, every aspect of his job, every aspect of the sport, and the current landscape of college basketball. I mean, and that's not just dealing with us, but that's dealing with the kids. He's a master on the recruiting trail, as you see year after year. One of the things that I think stands out the most about him that kind of describes exactly who Bill Self is this is a guy that you can meet him once, and then you can see him 3 years later, and there's a better than 50% chance that he's going to remember your name. And that part blows my mind, and that's what makes him such a good closer in living rooms and in the relationship aspect of recruiting these kids, because he makes you feel like you're a part of something. He makes you feel like you're special. He makes these kids and their families and their support groups and their friends even. I mean, he remembers all of that stuff because it's important to him and it's important to the process. So, that charisma and that style and just the easygoing nature. I mean, these kids, they always talk about Kansas and it's a Kansas basketball family, and I think he's the head of that, obviously, and it's a real thing. It's not just something that sounds good. It's not just a cliche. I mean, these are the types of guys that once you've played for Kansas and you've played for Bill Self, he's going to have your back for life. And a lot of these guys come back in the off season and in the summer, and that's if they're playing in the NBA, they find any time they can get back. And if they're not, a lot of them are around town a ton and around the program a ton, sitting behind the bench for games, just still wanting to be a part of it. And that's a definite credit to the culture and the program that he's built here.
Matt, appreciate a few minutes. My guess is Kansas wins tonight, and you get Michigan next. That's
as good a guess as any. I think they'd probably rather see Oregon, but Michigan's red hot too. And I guess, Bill Self's won 13 consecutive Big 12 titles, tying the UCLA record this year. So if they're able to get through Michigan State, Purdue, and then Michigan, I don't know if that would give him a Big 10 title this year too. But I think they'd probably lobby for that because around here they'd probably make T-shirts for that, Big 10 champs or something like that. But they're on a heck of a run, and yeah, I like them tonight. I think it's going to be a slugfest. I think it's going to be a tough game for 25, 30 minutes. But then I think, much like what happened on Sunday against Michigan State, I just think the speed of Kansas and these athletes just prevail in the last 10, and Kansas advances. So I'm happy for that because I'm happy for your bracket.
Yeah, no, hey, listen, it's all about my bracket. No doubt about that, Matt. Right where we started this whole thing. I appreciate a few minutes. Have a great night covering Kansas, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Thanks, Matt.
That sounds great. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you, Matt. Matt Tait, Kansas beat writer.